Mm.
All right, hi, welcome to another episode of the Critical Introvert Show. This is part 2 of our episode or our discussion about cults and hive minds and things of that nature with Nate Cap. So I think we last left off, I believe, with the concept of isolation. And for that, I kind of wanted to start off with this video of it's quoted, the anti-racist camp Republicans can't ban, but there's just a weird similarities that I've noticed with what we've been talking about with this video in particular. Maybe we can watch some of it to see what I'm talking about. And if you guys have anything that you noticed too, just tell me to stop and we can talk about it.
If you primarily studied the culture of your ancestors in elementary school, take a step forward.
If your ancestors were forced to come to the United States, not by choice, take a step backwards.
When I was seeing this part, it's sort of like a lot of people bring up the concept of original sin. And when I see people bringing up history, it feels like there's a similar to when someone uses the original sin argument to try to bring into their beliefs. That's just one weird similarity I'm seeing with this. And if you guys see the same thing or not.
Nate? So this is what they call a privilege line. And they ask a series of questions about how you may be privileged in life. And if you can see towards the front, it's mostly white male. In the back, it's mostly black women.
If you do not have to think about race and racism every day, take a step forward.
Anytime.
This is the shit that creeped me out the most when I saw this, this chanting shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with this, this kind of goes with that repetition and chanting phrases and all that kind of crazy shit. And just to see everybody's just involvement in it, and they seem so happy.
You have to be careful what you say. I think there's more than ever, the more I look into this stuff, I think there's a spell in words. I think spells are created through the use of words, so you have to be careful of what you speak. I think that's what's happening here. There's they're chanting a spell,
like a trance.
A trance, yeah. They're going into a frequency of
common ground. This is Anytown Leadership Camp. Atop a mountain in Arizona, detached from the distractions of the world. There's no horseback riding, creek swimming, or lake fishing. These young folks are here to lean into conversations most people try to stay away from. Conversations around race, diversity, and privilege.
I think it's so funny because they're while he's saying that they're having conversations, they're doing a chant in that moment, right? And like I said on the last show, this is one of the cult techniques, which is, like you said, the indoctrination through repetition. And so they're doing drills and chants, and right off the bat they're talking about if your race did this thing, walk forward, and this thing is a thing that could be bad. And it's like saying, well, you're bad because you're part of that race. And this is all about breaking down the person's character. Okay. This is about conformity, because it's about and that's what the chants are about too, because it's about making these children feel, not only feel bad, But then they start thinking like, okay, well, I feel bad about this thing that, supposedly my ancestors did, and now I must feel bad in this moment, even though I'm with these people and there's nothing wrong between us. So what's going on? And then this is just about them breaking the children down so they can rebuild them in this in this way that they want them to be. And it's not a good thing, because it's really teaching them that they're just like the white kids in there. It's teaching them that, it's not good to be white. Your ancestors sucked, and therefore you suck. So feel bad. And then we're gonna all chant together.
It's really creepy.
What I noticed too is that they love using the word progressive. But when I look at this is like so backwards and going in the opposite direction in terms of like progressive, because I mean, what do these kids have anything to do with like what happened in the past? Like, I mean, now you have to look at the present. And right now in the present, it seems to me that, I mean, from my research, it seemed that it's like they paid $500 to go to this camp for a week.
Really?
So, and not even in my opinion, like, so anybody that is here in the present in this camp is privileged to be able to pay for their parents to pay $500 just to go to this camp. So everybody's on the same page in terms of like being privileged. So nobody is less than or more than, like everybody that's here is actually more privileged than anybody, actually more than me.
Right. And they're not even right off the bat, they're saying, the guy who's narrating says, they're not doing any of the things that you should be doing out in nature. Which is, going out and playing in the creek and, taking a boat ride or kayaking or whatever he said. It's like, it's like, just right in your face telling you that, these kids are not here to get along with each other in a natural way. They're here to be re-educated into their image, their idea.
Do you guys see this creepy list right here on the right? Which is 6 levels of prejudice. Like, it has quite a jump.
How do you go from like preconditioning to
preconditioning, avoidance, and then all of a sudden genocide?
Calm down,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Right.
Let's keep going.
What prejudice is?
Anytown camp. What exactly is this thing?
So sometimes described as like a human relations camp, a leadership camp. We're talking about kind of all the isms. So we'll focus on racism, sexism, ableism, but then we're also focusing on like, how do you have a productive conversation?
This is the thing I can't stand about these people. Like they like to push this idea of, oh, let's have a conversation, but this conversation you can tell is like so one-dimensional.
Right.
Like, there's no conversation to be had here. It's just you're telling people one narrative. Like they're not having this conversation that we're having. We're just like, here are these things you must know, and you will talk about these things with the people. And
right. They're not getting into the psychology of what they're doing. They're not bringing, again, it's this non-logical explanation that is just like, hey, this is how we feel, and we're not going to allow any of this other dialogue to be brought into our little society.
Anytown has been stirring young minds in Arizona since the 50s. It was started by the National Coalition of Christians and Jews, an organization wanting to rid the world of bigotry. Now, there are dozens of Anytowns across America, but they all operate independently. Hey girl, do your thing and switch. Here in Arizona, campers pay up to $500 to spend the week talking about these controversial issues.
See, I knew it.
They're always like little wimpy fucking people that are into this shit, though. Never seen like buff dudes or anything like that. It's always like these really frail, weak kind of dweeby people.
Yeah. Yep.
Like the people that I know that are SJWs, like they look like this girl with the glasses. But
Well, what do you expect? I mean, none of them are doing like any sports or like swimming or tennis. Like, I mean, isn't that what camp is for?
Fucking lame.
How many of you have ever been in a situation where you were with someone saying something like racist, homophobic, just something hateful, and you were like frozen in that moment and had no idea what to do?
I mean, maybe it was a funny joke. You know what I mean?
How did his balls end up on the shirt? I don't know.
Yeah.
What a vague question to ask, though. It's like you heard someone say something racist. Yes, I have. Like,
yeah.
What's your goal with this shit?
Matt Case is an Arizona public school teacher and one of the camp's 3 directors, but he first came to Anytown as a camper at 17.
When I first started, like in the 90s, I think we had a very, like almost a little bit of a colorblind approach. And so what's changed there is like, we're gonna take a look at white privilege. We're gonna take a look at like how that plays out through different identities, right?
I think that's the main problem I've been having with, I guess we could say, the left when it comes to like racism. Like the colorblindness was a very good approach to like talking about race. It's like, you're supposed to ignore the race and look at the person for who they are, and to see them like drift away from that, it's like they don't realize like that, like you're going more into bigotry and into judging people by their skin color. Like you're taking like 10 steps back, not really going forward with this.
I know, like, sorry, even when I was like a little kid, like in high school, I think I wrote something like, I wish we were like I was trying to like come up with like raps and stuff. I was like, I wish we were colorblind or tolerate how we were designed. I'm like, dude, it's like the color that we were born with, that has nothing to do with who we are. And it shouldn't be the most important thing. The most important thing is to be your personality and character and the things that you do.
Also, I really don't like this privilege thing, because it seems like it's a one-way street to just villainizing someone for something they have no control over. Like if someone's white, I mean,
they're bad.
There's a realistic historical sense as to why they might be at a upper class than someone who isn't, because they've been in the country longer, and that's just the reality of it.
Yeah, there's no logic that I've ever heard for white privilege or any privilege of any color. I think that it really just comes down to people don't want to actually look at what is really taking place with what they consider to be privilege, because it's like saying, the reason that you got this job, or the reason that you, did so well in school is because of your skin color. And it's, it's always a very tricky place to go in a conversation, because people feel you have these people who hold on to this grudge, but also they don't realize that this grudge is coming from a place of planted mind control from the media to keep us fighting in this area. Also, you have the white people who hate their color, who want to stand up and say, yeah, white privilege. That's why this is the reason why things are bad for the minorities. And it's like, you just, the truth is like, you hate yourself, you hate your color, you should never hate your color. What you should be steering your anger at are the people who are planting this crap into your mind. Because it's like, this is the reason why we're having these arguments, is because we are not aware of the fact that like, and then this goes hand in hand with people who are mutilating their genitals to be a different quote unquote sex. They're quote unquote different sex. It's the same idea that people are not accepting who they are because of what society tells them about themselves. But really it's people are raised in this way of thinking because their parents truly don't care about them. Their parents weren't raised in the first place. Their parents had horrible parents and horrible teaching, and none of these children are really their families are not helping them find out that how important they are and how much of a purpose they have here to recognize that they're not here to fight over these types of things. They're here because they're supposed to enjoy life and accept who they are and be thankful for what they were given by the creator, and by their parents, but they're not, because they are raised in such a way that they look down on that. They're taught that. Most children are taught to hate themselves, so that way they turn to mommy and daddy, state and government to tell them how to think and how to be and how to pursue the pleasures and materialism life.
I was gonna say really quickly too, I think that's how a lot of people also lose their purpose in life, because they get so caught up in this sort of social justice call to adventure, kind of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go fight white supremacy, that they get so involved in that and invest so much emotional time into it that they forget, they don't put any time into themselves. Like, and instead of becoming these architects or these amazing artists or having something really of value they can give back to the world that would actually be more beneficial than trying to combat white supremacy, instead they're just like end up like an empty shell, because it's a joke. It's really a joke.
You have to be kind of a shitty parent, like, to take your kids to this, because like that should be your job as a parent, to teach them about race and teach them about like treating people with respect, not like send them to a camp and be like, oh, you guys do it.
And you'll see later on too, I think I brought up in the last episode that they actually came to this camp with the impression that it was to teach them like leadership skills. And I think you'll see that if we get to that. So they were kind of like misled too a little bit. So I don't know how well the parents were informed, but
all right, let's keep going.
That phrase, tip of the iceberg, there's identity that people see, but then there's identity that's deeper.
Why are you here at Anytown Camp?
I think at first I just signed up because I thought it was going to be like leadership, and with that, like I want to go into business, so I thought that'd be good for me.
Actually, my Spanish teacher told me it was like this leadership camp and I could come here to get 50 service hours, which was like my main reason to come.
So you came here for the service hours?
Yeah.
Well, I'm here
Isn't that kind of manipulative to lie to a kid to tell them to go to this, and it's like this indoctrination shit?
and that's like right here in your face. It's like so messed up. Like anybody watching this, just judge for yourself.
Like this would be creepy, and like if it was the same thing, like they said it was a leadership camp, but it's like it's a super Christian indoctrination camp, like, but it's weirdly accepted on the left, and it's odd.
These children are being bred to be the leaders of the new world. They are being re-educated to think that what they're doing is being the world of one, or the like this is the way that we're going to change the world for the better. But really they don't realize that they're all just being completely indoctrinated into this new religion.
Unfortunately, like useful idiots It's like they think that they're like uprooting like the system, but then like they turn out like people like governors from like I think it was Oregon, like Kate Brown, that got rid of. She signed like something into effect where people that graduate from high school, they don't no longer have to be able to read or write to graduate.
Oh yeah, I remember
so
that.
it's stuff like that. It's so backwards.
Yeah, man, it's. Oh,
and it'll be in the guys to fight against racism. Like, oh, it's racist if you have to pressure them and to be able to read. Like, come on, man. And that's what this is doing. Like, really imagine this guy in government, in politics, anywhere, like even in Burger King. Like, you don't want this. He's better off just playing baseball or soccer. Like, you become like a better person, like if you just did sports.
It's creepy that these like they're putting this shit on the kids, and these kids are gonna grow up and they're gonna go into companies utilizing this toxic ideology, and that's gonna crumble so much.
I think it's really important to see the behavior of these. Okay, so once we start realizing these techniques like conformity and repetition and isolation, traumatization. Once we see these techniques, I think it's important that we apply those techniques to other types of avenues of where people are joining something, because then we'll start to see like, oh, this is everywhere.
Yeah.
And really start to see that, this what we're seeing right here is it's sad, but it's a very, and I wouldn't say it's like a super low level type of a cult, but it is in the sense like, I guess at the very least they aren't really teaching violence. It looks like they're kind of talking about that a little bit, so that's a good thing. But it's like they're not, obviously they're confusing the hell out of these children. To where the kids they're not even going to think, they're not teaching the philosophy of violence, so they're really not truly learning what violence means, because they think that speech is violent, so it's a very confusing thing. But I just I'm looking at this title right now, anti-racist camp Republicans can't ban. It's very interesting that it's just always got to do with the left or the right. It's always got to be that, rather than is it right or is it wrong. They don't want to get into that, and that's, to me, the way that and that's really what I've watched quite a bit of Vice, and man, let me tell you, that is just super propaganda. I mean, majorly. They're not teaching anybody anything real. It's just all confusion. It's always just illogical, misleading, and it's just really, really bad indoctrination. I mean, I'm not saying that indoctrination is a good thing, but I'm just saying that it's just constant bombardment of just logical fallacy after logical fallacy.
Did you see that one? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, we can see that, but unfortunately, like the kids that are looking at this stuff like with fresh eyes, they're just gonna like eat it up. It's gonna they're gonna soak it in. So that's all.
Speaking of Vice, just real quick, have you seen that one Vice video? It's like black girls taking like a vacation from white people video that Vice did. I think like last year.
No.
Maybe another time we'll check that one out. But it's like these black women, and they take a vacation somewhere in Costa Rica, but it's specifically like no whites allowed, and you could just hear like how weirdly paranoid and just backwards their thinking is with racism, and it's like they're weirdly kind of mimicking the same talking points that like a white nationalist would kind of advocate for, but just within the context of being black. It's really weird.
Mostly because of my mother, who had signed me up for this camp, and I accepted that decision, and now I'm here.
My mom, and she told me, but like a couple of nights before, and I didn't want to come, but she packed my bag for me. So,
oh man,
I like this
kid. It's all good, man.
Like most camps, you got workshops, games, and activities, but these activities are designed to have campers engage some of America's most sensitive topics. There's dialogue instead of debate.
When your actions are hurting or negatively affecting someone else, is that when you should be canceled? Is that what you're saying?
There's some role play.
I mean, it's just a compliment. Like, I want your skin color. Like, it's beautiful.
And there's a lot.
I hate mine.
Yeah. How creepy. What a creepy thing to say. Oh, God.
I just want to eat you up.
Yeah.
it's like overly done, like so over the top.
Have you heard of cucking, by the way? You know what I mean?
Cucking? Oh, yeah, I forget. I forget what that means. Yeah.
It's like a sex thing. It's
individuals and groups to be heard. And right now they're getting prepared for what they call a fishbowl, where groups will sit here in the middle, have a conversation, while people on the outside just shut up and listen.
Today, because I'm Catholic, you have to go through like confirmation, and one of the things you do is you go through like a retreat thing, and I think we did like something similar to this, where we like sat in a circle and we all like passed around a bowl, and we had to like, I don't know, like speak something about spirituality.
What kind of bowl are you talking? Sorry,
I don't remember. But yeah, this is exactly the same shit, man.
Huh, interesting. It's funny because I was like Catholic too, but I only got to like the communion part.
Oh yeah,
and then I didn't get to the confirmation.
It was annoying.
Yeah,
we're gonna be practicing.
Man, I mean, it's just like, yeah, just let it go.
Let it go.
Deep listening.
What does it mean to be black?
It's a part of us, but it's not all we are.
We're expected to be strong and able to handle everything, but being a black person, I don't necessarily feel like I always have the right to be more sensitive.
But like, where are these kids getting these ideas from? Which is weird. Like they're getting this from somewhere, and
it's just, media does an excellent job. School educate, or quote unquote education does a really good job. Parenting does a quote unquote really good job, and it's like, it really just comes down to everybody has this imagination of something that is not true, so it's a bad imagination because they're imagining things that are, not real and not true in reality. And, it's like, to imagine that you don't have a right to feel. I mean, you really got to have your whole soul beat out of you. And it's sad, like I feel for people in that state, especially young people. But at the same time, it's like we're all responsible for our thoughts and emotions and actions. And it's just crazy how confused our society is. And then you hear it. This whole video just shows how confused we are as a whole. Not saying us individually, but most of society seems to be right here, in my opinion.
But it also feels like taking advantage of like who at this age like had things figured out and who was confused. Like, you're in middle school or high school, like you're still like, I don't know, you're uneasy about things, like you're still figuring things out, and to have it in your head that like it's racism that's doing it, like maybe it's not, maybe maybe you just need to grow up a little bit more,
right?
It's so bizarre.
It's like an unspoken understanding that we all have. But as someone who grew up hearing constantly
Jesus.
that I wasn't black enough, it does make me think, well, what am I supposed to be?
Who the hell's telling you you're not black enough? That's not like white people. That's probably people in like black community people. Like since I'm Hispanic, like I always got like, you know, you don't come off Mexican, you don't come off Hispanic, you come off or white. It's not really something I would like blame white supremacy or whatever the fuck. That's just
Yeah. It's we see the thing is like we've been brought up to think like, oh, the way that black people act, or the way that Mexicans act, or the way that white people act, or the way that Chinese people act, you know, it's like we think, oh, this is how they act because of their skin color. But no, it's not like that. You don't own being quote unquote black. You don't own quote unquote being white. Because I mean, you know, a perfect example, whether anyone listening or not likes Kanye or not, listen to the way he speaks. And he's always criticized for sounding white the way that he speaks. I mean, that is the dumbest thing that anybody could say, because really it's about, you know, if you're educated, you're educated. You're going to speak the way that you need to speak. And if you're talking, you know, very low level education, you're not going to sound what people would call white. And it's just so ignorant the way people you know, hold this belief that you know, you're like, oh, you're a black person, or you're a white person talking black. And it's like, well, no, you're just a white person who grew up in the ghetto, and that's just the way you talk.
The fishbowl is like being under the real-time anthropological gaze of other folks. They're a fly on the wall in the living room, barbershop, and beauty salon. And when it's not objectifying, it can work.
Thank you for participating.
Midweek, campers break into small groups based on shared experiences like race or sexual orientation, and they talk about what ties them together. Later in the evening, there's culture night. It's like identity show and tell, where you present your culture to the camp through skits, discussion, and audience interaction.
Oh my God, I fucking hate that word. I fucking hate the Latinx, the push for the word Latinx. I think it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I've never actually heard it. What does the X mean?
It's like, because in the Spanish language is gendered, you know? Like some words are
It's
more
in both ways, I think. Right?
Yeah, some words are like more masculine, so they end with an O, like Latino. But if it's female based, it's Latina, and yeah. So this is a way to like do away with gender in the language. So it's Latinx. It's fucking stupid.
So it's like a manipulation language, like I've said, like they doing thing with language to cast spells, to change the culture.
So. But like, how weak do you think like Hispanic people are, where like you need to shelter them from their own like language like this? It just, oh God, I hate it so much. I fucking hate it.
Things that bind us together in the Latinx community are our celebrations, dance, and music.
Language, it's very tonal. For example, bang, hueco.
That's who farted in Vietnamese.
Where are you from?
Oh, from Arizona.
No, but like, what part of China are you from?
Well, I'm not Chinese. I'm half Hispanic, half Vietnamese.
Oh.
I like that kid. He wasn't having none of that shit.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm from Arizona.
Well, what I've noticed too, like to go back to the Latinx thing too, is that like nowadays it's like they're not even. I don't really care about like referring to myself like Latino or Hispanic. I don't really care about that. But
Yeah.
like, it's like a way to just they don't even refer to people as Latino or Hispanic anymore. It's just like they're imposing that Latin X onto us. So they will sometimes like I've noticed like they'll just have like, what are you? Are you black, white, or Latinx? So like what? I'm none of that shit.
Yeah.
It's like they're trying to like impose and just like put you in the box. Like they're trying to put you in the box that you're not.
Yeah, it feels like a way to like take away your individuality.
Yeah.
In a very subtle way.
Yeah, and the X also when it's applied to a word, it also, a lot of people might not know this, but it means ignorance.
Not really.
Yeah. So it's like obviously like whoever made that word, whether they knew that or not, most people are not going to think that it means ignorance, but it does. And the funny thing is like, there's no O or A, which means it's like being ignorant of the importance of the language.
Yeah.
It's almost like not being aware of gender. It's like, gender's not a gender's a construct almost.
But do you like the people Latinx advocates, like, do they apply that to the rest of the language? Like,
yeah.
Or is it just the word Latino?
Right.
It's fucking confusing. Just stupid.
Yeah, it's and that's the thing that I keep saying over and over is this is all to confuse us. It's everything, because the X is the confusion. This whole community is confused. It's like everything that they talk about has a confusion to it, and it's just that's why every time you guys are watching this, you are like, what is going on? That's because it's like you're watching a confusion fest.
Yeah.
And that this is the model of America right now that we're watching.
But I think shit like this is going to get like more pushed, especially in public schools. But it's a later thing. See what the Native American people have to say.
Not a big fan of Thanksgiving. What you were taught for Thanksgiving is an absolute lie. It was a massacre.
So the first thing we noticed is that none of us really felt immediately connected to each other.
Another thing that we could agree on as a group is that white privilege is very dominant in our culture.
Another thing we wanted to take into consideration was taking accountability, and just by making space for those that we have affected.
They come off like fucking like Taliban hostages. These fucking like, white kids. Like they feel so uncomfortable to be there, but so like like tied down to like not speak like how they want to speak.
Well, it's funny how like they pan over to the guy, the black guy is like, yeah, I'm nodding in approval. Yeah, that's right, white woman. It's like,
thumbs up. Yeah.
Yeah. So stupid.
Throughout the week, the energy would volley between a kumbaya atmosphere of smiles, hugs, and giggles, and uncomfortable conversations that created some tense moments.
Content warning. There will be some derogatory language, as well as violence.
Tonight, we watched a bunch of skits about prejudice and how it's like a domino effect, how it starts with preconditioning and eventually leads to genocide.
Jesus.
Damn.
Anytown staff asked us not to film these skits, but what we saw was kind of heavy. Counselors acted out some racist scenarios, some of which were loosely based on real experience.
This is real life for these folks that you know personally now.
We are crying because we just experienced this for the first time.
That's one thing I annoyed me when I was in college, when like these kind of SJW types, like they had to like sort of like broadcast to the world like their emotional feelings like this, like anyone cared. was always the most annoying thing.
Yeah, what I really so I relate with this scene in a way, in a very negative way, because when I was in elementary school in 3rd grade, I was the only white kid, and my teacher, who I loved, but she was very ignorant. Her name was Miss Tucker. She looked at me one day and said, she didn't know how to pronounce my last name, but she goes, Mr. Kapnicky, what's it feel like to be the only white kid in the class? And I didn't know how to respond to that. Like I was like, oh shit, I didn't realize that I was white. I didn't know what that meant. But the thing is it gave me all these emotions that I didn't need to have. She didn't need to do that to me, and she didn't need to do that to all the other kids in the class, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm seeing right here, is like they're putting these kids through these situations that they don't need to put them through. This isn't going to teach them how to like truly feel bad. This is a simulation that they're doing. It's not a real world exercise, or not an exercise, but a real world like event that is actually taking place. They're forcing them to go through these emotions, and I totally disagree with that. It's not right. And I'm telling you, this is the traumatized. So they're traumatizing them right here. Okay. That's a cult technique. And then they're conforming them to this idea,
Yeah.
And they're just repeating it over and over and over. And it's just like, damn, man. I mean, poor kids.
I would do anything to find these videos that they're watching, though. I just imagine how terrible they'd be, like laughably terrible. Let's see.
You have a right as a human being to not be okay with the way Black people are treated.
It gets me angry. All these emotions that I hate feeling.
I'm not gonna sit here and put my life on display in order to educate you.
Other unaffiliated indie towns have been accused of the skits being a bit too immersive. Here in Arizona, it got emotional, but most people seem to think what they saw was worth a conversation. I'd imagine, there's some folks that will look at what you're doing and say, man, they taking them kids up there at the top of that mountain and they indoctrinating them. All of that conversation around race and all of this is divisive.
These conversations don't divide, they actually unite, because you get through the BS.
In high school, have you had any kind of conversations close to what you've experienced here at camp?
Never. I've talked about race, but not to this level, not in the way that everyone is checked for the privileges that they have and don't.
I'm learning.
What's disturbing me is like the concept of race and the controversy to it. Like it's a very long conversation, and it takes even years to like, I don't know, come to grips with and see through the bullshit and see the heartache. But like to have these kids, like they're so young, but they're like so sure that they, like they understand it and shit like that. Like that's what like really saddens me about this kind of shit. Like, give yourself time to grow. Maybe consider the opposite path towards this race discussion. Don't like, I don't know, like proclaim that. Don't devout yourself to this belief yet. Like you're young. Give yourself time.
Yeah, well, it's like the trust that they have in the adults too. I think.
Yeah. I wonder if there's like any pushback from any of these kids, because I would love to see that.
Yeah, that's the same thing I was thinking too. I think some of the clips too are like edited probably like to make it look even more favorable on their side.
Because I noticed they've interviewed this little kind of
they focus on that guy like so much.
Yeah, because there was that one kid earlier, like that Asian kid that was like, "Where are you from?" He's like, "I'm from Arizona." Like he didn't give a shit. Like I would have liked to hear more from that kid to see if he saw through the bullshit.
Things here as a 19-year-old that I should have knew already.
In all 18 years of my life, I have not heard almost everything I've heard at this camp.
It's been an emotional ride.
But see, like 18 years old, you're still really young. Give yourself fucking time, dude. Oh.
It's been really eye-opening, and I'm grateful for it.
I feel that in some way it is, in a way, trying to inflict some shame with how its programs are. I don't think it's intentional. I wouldn't say that that's at all what they're trying to do, but with some of the programs here, it can appear that way.
He's on it.
Yeah, he knows what's up.
Y'all going too fast to sit speaking to the 15.
Do you really believe this place is making a difference?
Yeah, we're chiseling away at these things. We might not see a demand, but we're leaving it better for the people that come after us.
Yeah, I would love to see like any clips of like people pushing back while they're there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just weird, man.
What do you guys feel about and this is something that I'm just entertaining in my mind, because I'm trying to empathize with people as much as I can within the bounds of principles. There, like, I can watch that whole that little documentary and I can just tear it apart. But also, like, what do you guys feel about skin color? Because it's like, obviously there's mind control involved, but what do you truly feel as far as like I'm entertaining the idea that okay, well, isn't it very interesting that tribes tend to have all the same color people in their tribe? Isn't it interesting that most of Europe is light skin? Isn't it interesting that most of Africa is dark skin? Isn't it interesting that America, even with all our, with our freedom here that we have still, we have like a melting pot of all these different races. And like, I guess the question that I'm asking you is, do you see physically, are you honest in your way of how you see a different race, a different color?
You mean if I like any prejudgments or something like that, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, just like recognizing like, oh, I'm white and you're black.
Yeah, I mean, to a point, but it's not something that like I would say like brings interest to me as like a conversation starter. Like if someone maybe had a shirt of Ren and Stimpy, then maybe I'd like to talk to them because maybe they like the same things as me. But regardless as to what their skin color or whatever the hell I just find it like it just seems like a boring topic to like latch on to as far as like connecting with people.
Yeah.
No, like
I totally understand.
Yeah.
Believe me. Go ahead.
Because if someone like found out that I was Hispanic and they just want to talk to me about being Hispanic, like I wouldn't know what to say, because it's not really something that I find like that interesting about me. If I can maybe talk about the food or something like that, but to be like, it's it's part of my blood and you don't understand me if you don't understand my culture. Like it just, I would come off feeling like a douche if like I was that person.
Right.
So I wouldn't like do the same to other people. Yeah, I guess that's like the best way I can kind of put it.
Yeah, I'm only asking that in a very respectful manner because it seems to be just an enormous issue.
Yeah.
And on so many people's minds. And I think, well, I think maybe like, okay, when you look at that camp, I feel like they're having the wrong conversations.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe, that's really the truth in the in the race or culture debate or conversation.
Yeah.
Is we're not having the right conversations about it. But really, I mean, like for me, I don't care what color you are. All I care is, are you a good person or not?
Yeah.
Because, and I can define what that means, but the thing is that when we're all caught up in the color of our skin, rather than the character of who we are and how we treat people, that's a really big problem.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, well, it's kind of interesting that, like I think about like, well, I was born into this white skin. You were born into your skin. A black person's born into their black skin. And it's like, there's a reason that we are these shades that we are. I don't think nature just like randomly made us that way.
Yeah. I
do think that, it's really just about like, appreciating what you were given, accepting, like, I love that I'm white because I was given this white skin.
Yeah.
I was gifted with it. If I were black, I would be proud to be black. Because I would appreciate that I'm black. But my soul supposedly chose what this is. And I think that, our lesson here is to recognize more so if we're, don't be dishonest about like, recognizing our color, but to recognize that what's more important than that is morality.
Yeah.
How we treat people, how we treat others. Because if we don't have that, then this whole skin thing, this whole color and culture thing is just a waste, or it's not of any real importance.
Yeah. Like I don't understand how the conversation of race became so skin color obsessed.
Right.
Like I said, I don't find people's race to be that interesting because I just care about who the person is as far as their character, whatever that you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's not that much of a conversation to me that sounds really deep. I mean, maybe someone had like an interesting background or like with their past or something. That's something, but beyond that, I don't care.
Right. Yeah. It's very it's a very strange topic because we are taught that and it's like it's confusing on both ends. Like if you're somebody who is just like, if you're somebody who actually hates, see, the funny thing is that I've never, like, I know that people are out there who hate people because of their skin color.
Yeah.
But I, for one, have never met anybody like that. And like if I say something, for instance, if I were to say, yeah, I didn't hire this person because they were thieves or something. I don't know. They have a criminal background or whatever, right?
Yeah.
If that person, see, in today's world, because I'm white and I'm male, and if I said that, right, and without naming the skin color, people will be like, oh, that makes sense. But the moment that I revealed, like, oh, that was a black man that I didn't hire. Oh, you're instantly a racist person and you have white privilege, and it's like, no, it's not, like, you have no logic, you have no way of proving that, because it's not true. But it's like, that's the world we live in right now, and where it's all this dishonesty, finger pointing, and just blaming you for something that's not true.
But I also think the I don't know, call it, like, the topic of being racist, like, is confused to a lot of people. It seems like people just define something as racist as, like, the best they got is that it's something that might criticize something if it's another race. That's like the best they got. Like what was that ride in Disneyland? Was it Splash Mountain? The one with the log. That they're like changing it to something because it has something to do with like some like racist cartoon or something like that. And like when someone was trying to argue for that, I was just like, well, can you explain to me like what is racist about the ride? And the best they had was like, well, it was from a story that came out in the Southern Times, and like that's the best they had as far as explaining why it was racist and why it should be, changed. And racism, the claim of something being racist is a big claim, and to have it be so vague like that, you kind of dilute the I don't know, the conversation, or
right.
I guess I'm not sure how to explain it, but
well, here's the thing that I don't understand is, like, I'll ask people what if we're going to talk about racism, can you define what racism means? And most people cannot. Like, they're just saying, like, whatever the TV is telling us is racism, that's what racism is. And it's like, no, that's just because the majority believe that doesn't mean that it's true. And you're really throwing around a very dangerous language, because that language can always result in some kind of violence. And people don't understand that. They don't care, because it's like, well, the majority is on my side, so I can say whatever I want. And I can tell you that you're racist and nothing's going to happen, because like most people will back me, and it's like, really, like, that's your logic. Okay. Well, your brain is completely just inverted.
It seems like the conversation with racism, if it's not like leaning towards like the camp type of conversations, everything else is sort of seen as like a taboo, and you can't go there. Like someone, like, it would be easy for someone to think that our conversation right now is somehow racist. But they wouldn't know why, only because it just disagrees with that narrative that they're pushing, like that that state of mind, or whatever you want to call it. Like the way they go about they approach racism is different from ours. It's really divisive.
I kind of joke around nowadays, because people who know me, they know I'm a good guy. They know that I am not a hateful person. They know that I am not a bigot. And they'll like just talk all of this trash about white supremacy and white
privilege,
white privilege, white everything, just male privilege, white privilege, all that stuff. And they'll really just agree with all that jargon. And I just jokingly say, well, I'm a racist. What are you gonna do? What is your goal now? I'm white, I'm a male, I fit the description, I'm a racist. So what's the end goal here?
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh my God, you're a racist. And it's like, are you completely ignoring who I am? You know, that's how under mind control people are. They they're not even using their own eyes. They're only using the eyes that are fed to them by the media, by their education.
Yeah, I think the thing too is that a lot of these cities, like liberal cities, are being overrepresented because, like, where I grew up, I know I brought this before up. Like, I grew up in South LA, so I grew up with mostly like Hispanics and Black people. So like, I didn't grow up with like hardly like with any I guess you could say white people. So that's all I knew. So I experienced racism not by white people, but I experienced it through Hispanic people and Black people.
Yeah.
Which is like an angle that is not really like showcased, but like when they show it on TV, like they make it seem okay, it's only coming from it's only coming from white people.
Yeah.
Or
Like
it's only coming from so actually like so what I meant is not that we're being not overrepresented, but like we're being underrepresented. That's what I meant. Like in like a lot of these cities, because and that goes to Nate's point too with isolation. And so when you have just a bunch of like Hispanic people and like Black people, and they've never interacted, like the culture is different. We have to admit that the culture is different. We're kind of raised differently based on who our parents and like if we're Hispanic or Black, we're all raised differently. So the culture is different.
Yeah.
So when a Black person or like a Hispanic person, like for the first time goes out of where they live, like they go out of the way and they live somewhere else and they interact with white people, it's like a culture shock. So they don't know how to act, and it can a lot of times be misrepresented. And from both sides, from one side and from the other side, it can always be like misconstrued as being racist when it's not really racist. It's just like people being shot. Oh, like I didn't grow up. I don't know how to act around these people. And I think the racism that does exist now is not so much like what they're saying in the media. What the racism right now is, and I think actually for a long time is the racism of low expectations.
Yeah, it's more patronizing.
Is a lot more patronizing. Yeah, it's a lot more patronizing. Well, you'll see somebody. I don't know if I brought this one up before, but there was like an incident like Omaha, Nebraska, where there was like a bar owner that went outside to protect his bar because it was being riot. There's like riots outside and people were breaking windows, so he just went outside, and I think somebody had attacked one of the BLM protesters had attacked his dad. So he went out there and he had a gun, and then two guys.
This was in Wisconsin, right?
No, this actually was in Omaha, Nebraska. And then there's these two Black guys, two BLM activists, jumped on the guy with a gun.
Yeah.
And then they're like wrestling, and all of this is on video, so you can actually see this. So if you pull it up, and you can actually see the guy wrestling with the two guys. And then so what he does, he shoots like two shots up in the air, like two warning shots. So those two guys scatter and they run away. But then like right after that, there's like another guy that comes out of nowhere and he jumps on top of another BLM protester. He jumps on his back, and then the guy just like reacts and shoots him.
Yeah.
To protect himself from the one guy. And the thing about the story is that the bar owner is a white guy, and then the guy that was shot was a Black guy.
Yeah.
And somehow they everybody was piling up on the one guy. It's like, oh, this guy was a well-known white supremacist. Yeah. And I don't know if you guys are aware of this is still like one of my favorite bands. It just disturbs me that
was
they
it
311
311 or
311 like they piled up on the guy too. It's like, well, we completely forsake him and condemn his actions, and like they came out with this one message on their Instagram. And even though there's all this video this video of him just protecting himself, like he was protecting himself, it's clear, like it's like, what kind of what kind of shit is that? It's like, I don't care. Like, it all goes back to like left. It's like, it doesn't matter like the label or if you're white or if you're black. The thing that's always going to be the most consistent is, was this right or wrong? And
Yeah.
what that one guy did by jumping on his back and attacking him like that was wrong. And in consequence, he was shot. Like, it's not, it wasn't, it was all self-defense, and that was clear. But even like 311 and like even some of the members like on their own Instagram actually like were saying that he was like a Trump supporter and that he did this and that. And what's even more sad, like I actually went in and his name is I don't know if I'm remembering his name correctly. I think it was Jason or Jacob Gardner, and he was actually a really cool guy. It seemed like he was like a libertarian, and he was more right-leaning libertarian. So he seemed like a very reasonable guy. I was able to pull up like an interview with him where he was talking about his point of views, and he even went as far as creating like a unisex bathroom, like a third bathroom, because because there's like he had several incidents in his bar where people were complaining about trans people going into the women's bathroom. So he's like, you know what, like, I'm gonna do something about it. And he actually used his money to build a bathroom for like for anybody that identifies as trans. And this guy, they still like call him racist. They still like did all this. And then what's unfortunate is that initially it seemed that he was gonna be cleared of all charges, like all these like, and but then like I don't know what happened, like they got like a new district attorney, and then the district attorney, I guess the new one, was gonna like prosecute him. And I didn't even know about that. And then next thing you know, somehow, and this guy's from Nebraska, somehow, like I don't know how this happened, but he ends up in like somewhere like in Oregon or like near Portland. And apparently like they don't go into details. See, like I'm just like going off of like everything. The only thing that I read, like they don't give you any answers. The only thing that they said was that they found him like a few miles away from a hospital, and then supposedly he committed suicide. But they don't explain, like, did he hang himself? Did he shoot himself? But he was like a few miles away from like Portland, and like a few miles away from like hospital. So it was weird. It's like a really weird thing. And then it's just like he was like a big 311 fan too. So it's like at the same time, it's like, dude, it's like, and that's like the opposite of supposedly what they stand for. Because I don't know if you guys know like their history, because their history is that when they first came out as a band, they were falsely accused of being white supremacists.
Oh yeah, because the KKK thing.
Because of the 311 and KKK. So, and if you listen to the music, it's not racist. It's like the opposite of what they're saying. But now with this, it's like I'm just embarrassed that they didn't take like a stronger stand or like more neutral stance on this, because of what happened. They didn't even say anything like after he committed suicide. They didn't say like, well, like our dear friend like committed suicide. When they even have a song about suicide, I don't know. I don't know. It just it sucks.
I think, it's like the conversation of racism. If it doesn't like line up with like the views of like the anti-racist camp, like people are so afraid to venture out there that like any criticism that might be attached to a different race of any kind, like they're just so scared to touch it that it's easier for them to just say, oh, it's racist either way, white supremacy is alive and whatever.
That's what I'm saying, is like the racism of low expectations, because it is breeding people. It doesn't matter like what race it is, but like they're specifically targeting like African American, like, or the black race, and they're having low expectations. Oh, it's okay that he jumped on him and did all this stuff, and then he's like, he shouldn't have defended himself. He should have let that guy do whatever. And if you look into the history of the guy that jumped on his back, he actually had like a criminal history, like dating back to so and so. Like it's so, but you can't bring that up because then now it's like supposedly racist.
It's weird how like narrow, like I said, like the topic of racism is. Like it could only be discussed one way, any other variables you want to bring up, like people just don't want to touch it. And I think because it's too safe. It's safe to do that. Let's get back to the list where we can. There's some other ones on here. The isolation. This is a pretty obvious one right here. Number 6 is lack of freedom. The victim is cut off. He gives up his freedom. He cannot talk to certain people. He is confined to a certain place. He cannot go to others and get their opinions.
I think they did that for they do that with Scientology too, right? Where they kind of isolate people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, you can equate that to what's going on with this and COVID and shit. Like,
oh yeah,
people being isolated, not. But I even think that people feel like a social pressure to not hear any other opinions.
Mm-hmm.
They feel somewhat uncomfortable, like they're gonna lose friends or lose some kind of status.
Yeah, I mean, just because you listen to somebody doesn't necessarily mean that you agree with everything that they say. And that's the problem with today, is that you cannot get an alternative opinion without being just, I don't know, just smeared with some other racist or some other word.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure things out. That's all.
Yeah.
I've only met, this is a very sad story. It's very short, but I've only met one person who's been vaccinated who disagrees with the forced inoculation.
Really?
On others. Yeah. Most people I know are all for, who have had the shot or who haven't had the shot yet, are for everyone to get the shot in order for things to go back to normal. I mean, it's just mind-blowing that people are that open about it. And I just really, I mean, it's very heavy on my heart that people are that far gone, and it's the whole religion of scientism that's got their mind, and it's just it's crazy. But anyway, it's just there's hardly anyone who is standing up for the people who want to have their choice to get the shot or not. No one's really standing up for those people who are pro-vax or pro-mask.
Yeah.
So it just shows you that they don't care about equality.
Well, it's never going to stop.
Yeah.
I mean, today is the vax, and then next is the booster, and it's they're going to take everything. You're just going back into a corner until they have everything. You given the government all the leverage that they need over you. You have no freedom anymore. I don't understand how people don't see that. It's once you're back into a corner, there's no getting out. I was well, your body is my choice, my choice.
Yeah.
I can do whatever I want with it.
Yeah, but it's weird that people have forgotten the value of just freedom of choice. I've been on the keto diet for a while, and if the government mandated every restaurant to be keto, I would be against it for the same reason of freedom of choice. But it's weird that people just don't think about that. They're too consumed with the fear aspect.
Yeah, even if it was something beneficial, helpful, you can't impose something on somebody else.
Yeah, people have a right to just say fuck you if they want to. You know what I mean?
What I don't understand, people can still have they have all these unhealthy options. They can still exercise, they can still smoke and do certain drugs, and like, you know, like there's like an event suppose that I'm supposed to do, and they're actually asking either for me, it's like one of those like get high events where they're selling all those stuff, and they're actually asking me for what's it called, like like a either like a vaccination card, or they're asking me to have like a negative test. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's yeah, man. I mean, if people just could see the flames that we're all being engulfed in right now, their heads would spin. But you know, they don't want to. They don't want to look. They don't want to take their heads out of the sand.
Yeah.
And you know, because it's just the truth is too frightening, and it's just really disheartening. And but it's like, I mean, I don't know, man. It really has been so frustrating to know not only myself, but so many others are so traumatized by this. And you know, these people who claim they care about other people, they do not have any regard for the people who are depressed and being, you know, physically, mentally, and spiritually hurt by this. And you know, they'll never know because they want to live in their little selfish fantasy.
But also, like, how much safety do you want? Like,
I know, right?
Like, fuck, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand, like, this over like leaning so heavily on just absolute safety.
Yeah, like well, the first time like I really noticed like the oversensitive, like just like over precaution, like people taking so many precautions with safety is like in Chuck E. Cheese. I remember like the ball pit, the dirty ball pit. They don't even like, I forget, I don't know what year it was, but this happened like years ago where if you go to a Chuck E. Cheese, you can't find that big huge ball pit. It used to be like this giant ball pit of just like balls that you can just get in there, drown yourself like dirty balls, red and blue balls. And now it's like you can't they don't have it anymore because it's supposedly like unsafe or unsanitary, and that's why people are getting sick a lot easier because they don't have like a strong immune system anymore. They're just taking too overly too many precautions.
It also feels like it's a way to like suck just joy in life. Like, part of things that are fun is like there's a risk factor to them. Like, I remember, you guys seen the movie Sandlot? The Sandlot?
Yeah, that reminds me kind of like my childhood a little bit.
There's a part where the mom's like, she's mad at her son, and she's like telling him like, go out and have friends, get into trouble and get dirty. Like, she's, you know what I mean? Like, she's telling him to like take risk and all this stuff, but
I love that
people are so sheltered and preoccupied with safety and all this shit and germs. It's like, you're just gonna have a bad day if you're so preoccupied with all that shit.
When I was like a little kid, I was like biking like everywhere, to the park, to the park, to the swap meet, climbing on trees, getting like dirty, getting like mud. I remember like one time on this, we had like this super big, huge tree in the backyard that was like, I think like 3 or 4 stories high. I don't know, I might be exaggerating, but it's super high. And as a little kid, I don't remember how old I was. Maybe like I was like 6 or 7. And I used to climb on everything. I was pretty good at climbing. So I climbed on the tree and then I kept climbing. Oh, wow. I'm like, I got really excited because like I was getting like really high up, like super high up, like 3 or 4 stories up. And then eventually I got to almost the top, not the very top, but very almost like really high up. And then I looked down, I was like, oh shit. Because, you know, like when you getting up is really easy because you're going up. So the momentum of going up, you have more, you can see like what's in front of you. But when you're going down, it's like you're not using, your feet don't, like, you're not a monkey. I'm not a monkey. I don't have like I can just like kind of sort of, you have to kind of like, so for me to like drop down to the next branch, I sort of have to like drop down like maybe I forget how many inches, but I had to like actually drop down. It's like I had to jump into like next branch, but I was like, I don't know. Anyways, like It taught me a lesson though, because I was stuck there for a long time, and then like eventually, like my dad saw me, and he was like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" He just went up there like a monkey and got me.
Yeah.
But it was funny though, because I was crying and like everybody was laughing at me.
But,
Llorona. That shit was scary, man, because you have to like jump down, and like I wasn't gonna make it. If I would have done like tried coming down, like I would have went all the way to the bottom.
That's the main thing with like this overabundance on safety. Like I just feel like it's gonna kill the fun for so many people.
Oh, it
You
is.
have to- Like you have to enjoy life as you can. You can.
I think that's part of your health too. Like the more you do all these different things, like more adventures you have, you go hiking, you go playing sports, you have fun in the outdoors. Like the more, that's like how you strengthen your immune system. It's not by like staying inside and staying depressed.
Yeah.
And they're making us feel so comfortable, inside. We got our computers, we got our Amazon delivery, of food and other things. Now that we probably, a lot of us can't fly because we don't have the vaccine. So now it's like, well, we can't really go travel anymore like we used to. They're trying to do the whole credit score like China, to where you can't even take an Uber anywhere or a Lyft because, well, you have a bad credit score because you didn't get your vaccine. People don't understand, like, this is what is here now, but it's going to continually go down that path, and it's going to get way worse, and we're going to feel so isolated isolated to the point where it's like 1984. I don't know if you guys have read that or watched the movie, but it's the same concept, or THX 1138. It's like they are really structuring this whole system to push us in this tiny little box, to where we're eventually, those who don't obey will not be able to do anything other than fight. And that's what they want. They want that fight. Because it gives them the reason to come in and enforce martial law and wipe us out. And that's what communism does. And that's, anybody who's studied the bloody history of communism, they will tell you 100% that is exactly what happens.
Yeah. The thing that I've noticed too is that like the seasons used to have sort of like this, what's it called? Like this frequency or like this character personality. Like you don't see it anymore, because when you go outside, like there's hardly as much people outside. And then like if you do see somebody like walking outside, walking the dog, like they have like a mask, it's just like everybody's like so depressed. It's not like people running out. Like it used to be like over the summer, you see like a girl in roller skates, no mask, just like listening to music, just like enjoying herself. And then you hear people like having barbecue, like you'd see them outside and having barbecues, no mask, just like laughing and playing music. And now it's like you hardly see stuff like that anymore. It's like there's just like people just kind of like got depressed.
There's something about just seeing people smile that like does
that I miss.
affect you, that you miss, just seeing this forever. It's depressing.
When I get around people who are all masked up, I try to keep a smile on and look at them with a smile. Not because I'm trying to like mock them, but because I'm trying to subconsciously let them know that, look, you're obviously not that afraid of this thing. You're outside of your house, okay? You're sitting right next to me, okay? You're not afraid of this. You're afraid to show other people that you are that you're different. You're afraid to break free from this conformity, and you don't even know you're in the conformity. And you're afraid of what they're going to think of you if you talk to someone who's smiling at you. And now they've confused it so much that they don't, those types of people who are wearing the mask, they don't even know if who's vaccinated or not.
Yeah.
So they're so it's just this big mess, this perfect mess. It's a perfect storm for these dominators of this world, because they got everybody so confused that it's like and it's crazy because the people believe so much in what is being told that when they go to the grocery store, I know that they are believing that everyone who's not wearing a mask is vaccinated, which is not true. And that everybody wearing a mask is they're the person holding everything back, holding normal back. So and then there's people who are vaccinated who have masks on. So then it creates even this extra level of confusion.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just amazing. I mean, and people don't even understand that, in this country, in the Constitution, you're not legally allowed to ask somebody whether they are vaccinated or not. And if you you're not allowed to ask them about their medical personal medical information. And people don't know that. They don't know that. So then, when it says the little sign on the door that says, if you're unvaxxed, you have to wear a mask. Well, I can walk right into the store unvaxxed and no one's going to say anything to me because they can't. But also, now it just adds this extra layer of confusion because no one knows who's vaxxed and who isn't. They, everybody's pointing the finger and not at the same time. And but it's just more so people are believing that everyone's following the rules. And I think but it's like no, actually, if you if you walk into a store like that, you're not lying. Don't anybody who thinks oh, I'm not being honest if I walk into a store unvaxxed and not wearing a mask, that I'm being dishonest. No, you're not. That's not only is it constitutional, but it's a form of self-defense. It's not an actual form of lying, because you're living in a situation where it's like, dude, I got to get my food and I can't be bogged down by people's religious beliefs. I gotta get through this, and I hopefully that it doesn't cost me my livelihood or my life, but in this moment it is coming that close.
Well, it's pleading the fifth, right? Fifth amendment. Yeah. And it's the same thing. I know a lot of people have brought this up too recently on social media, how there's a lot of sex offenders out there that don't have to prove that they don't have to admit to any of that. It's it's funny. It's so upside down that sex offenders have more rights than people that just want to go and have freedom over their body, over what they put in, what kind of poison, what they would do with their body. And it has nothing to do with the virus. If not, the border wouldn't be open the way it is. And there's people coming from all over the place. There's people coming from Haiti, and then we're having the refugees from Afghanistan. From Afghanistan. We're just having people from all over the place. This has nothing to do with the virus. And I think a lot of people aren't aware of what's going on south of the border, because they think that it's only Hispanic people, or people from Mexico, or people from El Salvador. No, it's people from everywhere. There's a lot of people pouring in right now from Haiti. And it's because Biden is letting it happen. And then at the same time, it lends itself easy for like sex trafficking and just even more slavery.
Oh yeah.
Confusion.
Man.
Yeah.
The thing that's disturbing for me, the one thing that I've kind of been noticing more and more is that like it's this whole COVID paranoia is like it's made people start policing each other.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's nothing good that can come out of that. Like how far it can go, how far it can break people. Like even just relationship wise, it's gonna fuck things up. And to see people like keep on like playing into this shit, like it's disturbing, it's sad, you know.
The solution that I have for people who are listening to this who are really just wanting to be left alone and who want freedom is just remember that people don't know what's really going on, but don't let it drag you down to the point where you feel like giving up, because life is so precious. And there are people who really do feel the same as you do. And you're definitely not alone. You just have to manifest more like-minded people into your life who feel the same as you do, who want to do the right thing, who have some kind of principles to align with. And it's something, if you really want it bad enough, you will get it. And you have to understand, like, okay, for instance, I have friends who disagree with me on a lot of this stuff, and I try my hardest to keep the peace with these people. And because I'm not about just like straight up leaving people and not being around them anymore just because my views of the world are different than theirs. If they treat me well, then I'll stick around. But at the same time, I'm also like, well, are they doing anything that's beneficial for this world in the sense of, really, fighting for what's true in nature? Are they really fighting for the rights of the people and for the true rights of the people? And because voting is not fighting for rights, guys. Sorry, it doesn't. That's not how we fight for what's right. But I just want people to really know that no matter if your friends and family agree with you or not, just know that other people definitely agree with you. Other people definitely are in the same boat as you are, maybe even worse. And we all need to reach out to each other. And we really need each other to stand up for one another. And, I'm not anybody who would ever tell you that we need to rise up and be violent at the man or at the opposite side or whatever. I'm not for that. I'm actually trying my hardest to put information out there that can lessen that aggression, can lessen that violent belief system, because we are deeply angered. We are deeply depressed. Most of us are, and most of us just aren't honest to really see that. But we really have, if we really want to do this together, we got to be honest. Okay, first and foremost, be honest and care enough to recognize who you are and what this world is really doing. Because if we don't understand the functions to a degree of what's truly happening around us and in us, then we're really not going to understand what we should be fighting for. But and like I said, when I'm using the word fight, I don't mean be violent. I'm just saying, like, we got to fight with our hearts and our minds to unite with each other by uniting ourselves within. Okay, so because see, the universe is like a reflection, right? Our minds are like microcosmic reflections of the whole universe. And we are part of that whole reflection. Each one of us is a reflection of each other. And the more we change ourselves within and balance ourselves within, it starts to reflect that balance outwardly to others. And so that's what we really, in my opinion, should be caring enough to do, is really find that balance and harmonize with each other rather than be all frictional and want to fight with actual violence.
Yeah.
I don't want it to come to that, but I'm also definitely not going to back down and cower either. I'm not a pacifist. I will defend myself physically if it comes to that, but I don't want that, but I'm telling you, like, these people who are going out in the streets and, busting out windows and setting cars on fire and, putting other people's lives in danger, like, that's not going to change anything. That's going to make things worse. That's how animals act. Okay. We're not animals. We shouldn't be acting that way. And, but I'll tell you what, if any of those types of people come my direction, I'll be like that other guy that you were talking about earlier, David. I'm not going to, just let people walk all over me and destroy my property. I feel like more people who care for themselves and for truth and for the freedom that they have left, they should be standing up that way.
Man. I mean,
Yeah.
speaking of like someone, do you know who Michael Malice is?
That sounds familiar.
He's like some anarchist guy, but
yeah, Michael Malice. Yeah, I was actually
Yeah.
just looking into trying to get his book.
The Anarchist Handbook, I think.
Yeah.
Is he the one who wrote that?
Yeah. But he had this point about, like, coming out as the people that we are, like the risk, part of the pressure that people have to, like, not speak about this stuff is the fear of, like, losing friends and stuff like that. And he was just like,
yep.
Ultimately, like, you want to lose those friends, because if they're willing to just end a relationship based on just that you have these opinions, that you are these person, like, it's going to be rough, but it's better in the long run, because you're going to find other like-minded people, and it's
yep.
It's going to be a slow process, but it's you're going to be better for it at the end. But
yeah, do you guys know Larkin Rose?
No.
He's another anarchist who came out with a book called The Most Dangerous Superstition. And I highly recommend anybody listening to this show to study that book, because really it really is what's taking place right now, which is the belief in authority. And I'm telling you, that is ultimate. That is the religion of all religions. That is the most dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I think the way that people can defend themselves from believing in authority is that it's something that happens over time and is really passive, and it's I think a lot I think this includes a lot of like my friends that don't want to talk to me or they don't want to talk about certain things like this, but it's like really in our face. And the way that you can defend yourself from what's going on is that people really need to like slow down and think about what is it that's important to them? What are your values? What are your principles? And I think a lot of people are just so complacent, like, oh, well, I'm not bugging anybody. I just want to like do my thing.
Yeah.
And they haven't like taken the time because I know like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I don't have the same principles or maybe values or hold them as strongly as I do. Because I've actually taken the time to think about like, what is it that's really important to me? What is it that I believe in? And why is it that how did I come up with those conclusions? What is it that, why is it that I'm thinking, why is it important for me to defend that or for me to defend that, to speak again, to preserve it, to conserve it? Why? And those are questions that people need to figure out for themselves.
100%.
Otherwise you just, because what's happening now is that people are so complacent. They're like, oh, well, nothing's really happening. While like the government is just like trampling all over your rights because you think that it's not, they're not thinking. They're just like, oh, I just want to like go to work. I just want to go do my thing. But that's why you need to like have an opinion about abortion. I mean, is that a good thing? You want to have an opinion about like what's going on with all these refugees that are coming from like all over the world? Is that going to be a good thing in the long run? I mean, all these people that they released early from prison, was that a good thing? It's like we need to hold these people, like these politicians, accountable for what they're doing. It's like,
I think like sort of what you're kind of, to go along with what you're saying, like I think people have forgotten like the importance of finding out where, how do I say this? Like finding out how far your compassion goes and where like rational thinking begins. Like if you take abortion, for example, like I don't think there's anyone that would disagree that it's a complex issue, but it feels like people that have like, especially on the left, like they've gone almost like too lazy with just being pro-choice, that like they've sort of like shifted so far into like to the point where they're like celebrating abortion and shit like that. And for someone like me who I'd still say I'm pro-choice, but when I'm seeing people like celebrate it as like this is virtuous thing and shout your abortions, like you kind of lose people like me. And like
or it creates apathy. It's like people just like become these empty shells.
Exactly.
For example, like I remember, like I don't know how long was this ago, like maybe 10 years more. I was working at Walmart, and this one lady in the break room, or this one girl in the break room, was saying, "Oh, I'm like," she was crying over like an abortion that she had. She regretted it, and he like, it's not what people think. People think that they don't know until they actually go through it, what's really happening. And then the other older lady comes over and tries to console her. And this is what she told her. It's like, girl, it's all right. Like I've had 3 abortions and 2 miscarriages. It just it's like there's no compassion, no empathy. It's just like when people go through that, like initially, I think they do have that empathy where like they get to a stage where, okay, this is terrible, and they cry, but then after a while, it just like it's almost like they've given up their soul to like the devil. It's just like they don't know how to live with themselves, that they keep doing it, or it's just like a slippery slope where it's just like they just have no feelings anymore.
Yeah, when they become like numb to it, and they're like, oh yeah, like the other day I went shopping and got an abortion and we bought new shoes. Like it's a pretty serious thing. And to hear people like have such a I don't know, like a nonchalant attitude about it. Like there's something I don't know, like culturally disturbing about that.
Disturbing and evil, and that's why you get those women with like pussy hats, and just because they're like just mentally just destroyed, because not only is the baby like the victim, but also the person. that went through the abortion, because I've had people too, girls come to me, it's like, this is what they did to me, and it's like, it's not something that anybody really wants to, that anybody should really go through.
Yeah.
Yeah. My take on that is, I see both sides, but the thing is both sides are like, what David is saying is like, people who are more, pro-choice tend to be the ones who have very little, or act like they don't really care. But I think deep down they're very broken, and they definitely feel some pain. But then people who are more, or who are against that pro-choice, I understand it, because it's like, you understand that there is there's something so sacred about a human life, and you're going in there synthetically and stopping this person from entering this world. And so but here's really how I feel about it, though, is that everyone has a choice. And aside from the pro-choice thing, the woman has a choice. She has a choice to end this life from going any further, or because there is no such thing as like, where life ends or begins right there. Because it's a constant. There is no like, oh, the baby's dead from this time to this time, and then it becomes alive. And no, it's always alive all the way through. But the thing is like, you have a choice to end that, and you have a choice to keep. But the truth is that I would say that you have the choice, but are you going to do the moral thing or not? Are you, but at the same time, it's not up to me. It's up to that female and the father and the creator. That's it. It's not up to the government. The government and the state should never have their hands in other people's business like that. I like, it's a very dangerous, this is always a very dangerous conversation to be in. But the truth is like, if people don't understand, like, your business and what you do, you could be like a girl who's just, young and dumb, and, the guy is young and dumb, doesn't really understand anything about life. And then they, end that life. Well, that's between them and, and nature. And when it becomes us being in their business, when it becomes us like dictating whether they're doing the right thing or wrong thing, I think that's what always causes this division. And I think it's good to just leave those people alone, because like they're going to get, however the nature wants to show them what they're doing or what they did was right or wrong. It's totally up to them. It's totally between, like I said, between the mother, the father, and the creator. Because if it just gets too complicating, and everybody gets their feelings involved, and everybody wants to just get on high horse and be like, you're a horrible person for doing that, or you should go to prison because it's murder. And then you have all these people on the pro-choice people that are like, you're just a religious bigot, and you don't know what you're talking about, and it's not science, and there is no consciousness and all this stuff. And it's just like this bickering and anger. But it's like, if you guys just kept it to yourself, we wouldn't have this problem. And then the way I look at it is, the mother is going to suffer for making that choice anyway. She's already in pain. So just let it be, because she's already suffering enough. We don't need to make her suffer anymore.
Yeah.
And you know, she knows what she did is not good, because she feels it at her core, you know, because she has made a decision to block a life from coming out. And you know, like, we can get into the whole rape thing, and I understand, but see, again, it's just let them figure this out in their own personal space, because it's just, you know, it's just too much finger pointing and trying to make people feel bad.
The thing about like rape too is that it's not even like 1% of like the
I know.
cases.
Yeah.
So it's like
And more
it's
men,
almost like it's like the
more men are
so-
raped than women too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like almost like when they use that argument, it's like an argument that promiscuous girls use, like, oh, well, what if I get raped? Like, so it just gives them more power, and that's like the other thing too I don't like seeing. I think it's just they're making it too easy for them to do abortions. Like, I just don't I don't agree with that. It just, you're going in the wrong direction, I think.
Yeah. For me, like, just on a societal level, like, it's disturbing if like people just are frequently just having abortions every other couple weeks or something like that. Like,
Yeah, man, that stuff is
like, and I'm still pretty pro-choice, but like, I don't want like society to drift towards being that way. Like, to have it just be like a you know, a monthly errand you do because, you know, you be part of some shit.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you think it's like, not okay. Well, you kind of like lower your defenses a little bit. Next thing you know, it's like a very something that's being done a lot more frequently than it was done before.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, in a crazy way, I look at it, you know, I always try to look at it from different angles. And, you know, from a really like dark perspective, I would say anybody who's doing that is probably doing those children a favor to not bring them into a world where they're already going to be hated. You know, they're already going to be in the care of the parents that are not loving themselves. And you know, and I think it's just I mean, it's so messed up. I mean, me personally, I wouldn't ever block a child from coming into this world. But man, let me tell you, this people are not in a good way when they're, especially when they're teenagers. They don't know any better, and they're going to do what they're going to do. And if there's a way that they can do it, they'll do it. And it just means that, you know, they were never really taught about the value of life in the first place. So
what do you guys feel about, like, I've heard people when they bring up the rape thing, they have their position is pretty much like, even though that the rape is wrong, and, you know, the person that did the rape, you know, should be, you know, killed or whatever, like, why punish the child because they didn't do anything?
Right.
How do you guys feel about that, like, position? Because I mean, it's an interesting, you know, argument. It's not really something I've really thought that much of, like, where I stand on it.
It's like a complicated situation.
Yeah.
Because I try to also like empathize too, because that's something like you don't want like to ever happen to somebody that you know, like a family member. So, but at the same time, it's like the minority, like it's not even 1% like of like the cases. So I think that there's something that can be discussed. Like, I don't know.
But the pro-life side, like, I respect their position of, like, you know, life is valuable and killing an innocent life is, you know, very wrong. And what's more innocent than a child that hasn't, you know, been officially born yet, to kill that? Like, I see where they're coming from. But yeah, I mean, we can go longer on this if you want.
Well, you know, I think these things are really important to talk about. I really do. I just, again, my my whole issue with any of these topics is the appeal to authority. Because if we're always looking to someone to tell us about this, you know, like whether this is right or wrong, whether this is, you know, you know, who I'm looking up to in order to tell me what I need to believe, and then feel the need to, you know, tell people that they're wrong for what they're thinking. Like, and also, again, you know, there is this objective morality as well. So we have to incorporate that, and it's very difficult if we don't incorporate that, because then it becomes a moral relativist ideology, and you know, then we can just we'll just be in an argument for the rest of our lives.
Well, the question too that I have is that with this is it why we have to like pose the question to why is it that it's so embraced by politicians and like by certain like lobbyists and certain, it's like who gains the most out of it when you have a lot of these aborted fetuses are like a lucrative like business like in the black market. And I've even gone as far as notice that like it's even supposedly in some of the products that we consume, and it's like, so that's the other thing that
Soylent Green.
Yeah, this is so yes. So who has, I mean, it's almost like we're still sacrifice. It's like going back to the old days where people sacrifice people to like their gods, their supposed gods. We're still doing the same thing. I just think I find it primitive, like for whatever reason. And I think the people that gain the most are the people that we need to like be looking at. It's not about us. It's about like, why is it that they've turned the culture into embracing this I don't know, abortion like so much. Like you see it everywhere. It's like they've created into a right when it's not really a right. You can debate like whether it's right or wrong, but like if it's not really somebody's right to end somebody's life. They can do it, but they'll be judged by the universe.
Right. Yeah. And that's really where it should, you know, that's what it should be left to. But see, you know, and this is something that a lot of people really strongly disagree. They think that judgment should come from man, and that authority, we should always look to authority to take care of all of our problems. And I'm telling you, it's all about our relinquishing of responsibility. And we think that, oh, we can just give our responsibility over to somebody else, and we can't. But we believe that we can. And every time we are met with these issues, and we don't understand that it is because it is the very reason that we believe that our responsibility is someone else's, that creates these monsters who think that they represent us in the White House, and then they get to, you know, make the decisions for us on, you know, what is a right and what is a wrong. And it's, you know, as long as we stay in that belief system, then we'll always have these divided issues. We won't be able to see both sides. We won't be able to realize like, oh shit, we're human, and I shouldn't be on this high horse, but also I do recognize like this is wrong and this is right, but like I want to come and I want to try to help us understand that we're not seeing it from, you know, the outside perspective all the way around. We're only seeing it from one angle, and But, you know, that's what we're taught. We're taught to just join a gang, let our representatives tell us what to believe and think, and then, you know, go about our business and entertainment and go vote.
Oh man. How long have you been recording? Like 2 hours or something?
Yeah, I think we probably wrap it up.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see if there's another thing on the document that we can go real quick. Okay. I guess let's go. You can pick one. I'll read the titles and you guys let me know which one you guys want to go on. Number 8 is teaching truth, the teaching of truth along with untruth. Or let's see, feeding lying information, the drip method, which is pretty much repetition, or peer pressure. These all kind of go hand in hand.
Can you press the plus button to enlarge that? Just because the way it zooms coming through. Awesome.
Crap.
Yeah.
There. Okay.
Yeah, I know it's a little hard to navigate.
How do I go down?
I think you just
there he goes.
Press and hold it. Yeah.
I guess like the offer.
Yeah, that's what it did to me too.
I guess I was gonna say like the offer of prestige.
The offer. Oh crap.
Yeah, that thing is a little wonky. I don't know why.
The offer of prestige in a high position.
Yeah, I think it takes like a certain, I don't, you know, this is what it's about, like a certain personality to recruit people into cults. I think either somebody that you at least expect, somebody kind of like maybe like a motherly type person that you look up to, maybe like a mentor, especially if you didn't grow up with like maybe like a mom type, like, or somebody you can trust, somebody that gives at least the optics of like of trust.
Yeah.
Or somebody that's prestigious, somebody that is highly put on a pedestal in the media.
Yeah. I guess
I don't know.
I like the idea of going with peer pressure, because it does feel like a lot of this
yeah, that's a good one.
Feels like it's driven through just like social pressure and like feeling like you're going to be ostracized from your friends and family if you don't want to play along or whatever. Because I've tried to have conversations with people, and like the next time I see them, they're like, it's like I saw them naked and they're just nervous, and like they come at me and they just tell me like, talking about these things is hard, and like I even had people like tell me that like, I'm so brave to do this, and it's odd when I'm hearing that, because all I'm doing is just talking into a mic in my laptop. There's, for that to be considered like super brave or some shit.
Yeah, like I never understood like that, like not wearing a mask or just saying like you're against mandatory vaccines. How did that become so rebellious? And
yeah.
It's like it's just standard. Like I just want like my freedom.
yeah. Oh, there it is. I can go down. Yeah, just like we mentioned before, like that it feels very like high school. Like you're doing this just so you can like get in with the crowd and not like lose that status. But I think it doesn't matter. Who cares? Like, what do you think is good for you?
In nature, they're losing the status of reality, by doing that. And it's just, peer pressure is a hell of a drug.
That's what I was gonna say.
The page before this one, I kind of wanted to read over the truth and untruths.
Oh, okay.
I think that's Well, I mean, we can keep talking about the peer pressure one too, but I wanted to read that because that's really very
That's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah.
The teaching of truth with untruth. The teachings of a cult are seldom all wrong. They are usually partly wrong or mostly wrong. The leader may appeal to the person's good reasoning by presenting some truth, especially some truth from the Bible. What's the next page? But he also teaches much untruth along with the truth, thus influencing people to believe wrongly. Yeah, and like the subject of like misinformation and all this shit, like it seems so manipulative to me. Like when people like throw that word out. I mean, it's true that there's a lot of bad information out there, but that's for like the individual to kind of think, to find out for themselves, not to like have, you know, some higher authority to tell them what is true, what is wrong. You're just going to confuse the hell out of people.
Right. And what they'll do is they'll keep telling the cult follower, they'll tell them, you know, the truth within the lie constantly so much. Yeah. So this is the, you know, indoctrination through repetition, and they'll just keep doing it over and over and over until that lie within that truth is believed.
Yeah.
And
or they'll like manipulate the Constitution. They'll say, oh, okay, well, based off of the Constitution, this is wrong, but they won't explain really like how that has anything to do with the Constitution. They'll just say Constitution. Right. He's going against the Constitution, or he's going against the Bible, even though they're like they don't even believe in the Bible. Like, right. I've seen Kamala. I think she's like used the Bible, and I think Biden has also used like the Bible when they're clearly not even religious.
Oh, but they definitely have a big religious cult following.
Yeah.
But even with COVID, I mean, like I've heard so many like people say like, you know, the sickness does exist. Like I never heard anyone say it doesn't exist. Like that's an argument that no one I know, and I listen to a lot of people, ever say.
Yeah.
It's this way to like sleight a hand to try to dismiss any criticism,
right,
of any kind.
Yep, that's exactly it.
In a very lazy way, though. You know?
Yeah, it's just amazing how much people will go out of their way to tell me that, you know, but this person died, and there really is something killing people.
Yeah.
And I'll just be like, yeah, but didn't you hear what about I want to hear what you feel about all these other things that are provable that have happened while while people were dying.
Yeah.
You know, or what's your real feel on that? But then it's like, it's automatically like, yeah, but you know, how do we know that any of that stuff, how do we know that freedoms are really being taken away? How do we know that you know, like what their intentions aren't or are evil? It's like, yeah, but you're completely skipping over common sense just to go right to like people are dying. Yeah. I never said people are not dying. I never said that. I never said that people weren't affected by whatever that thing is that's going around and you know, harming people in their chest. I'm not in no way am I dismissing that. But what I am seeing though is by people that do say that, they are automatically dismissing all the things that are happening that are wrong as a result, or you know, following or going along or going with this sickness.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. But you know, but it's a weird conversation to have because there's such a fear tied to it, and when it's tied to like the subject of death, like it's easy for someone to just like maybe rely too much on safety because it relates to death. Like sort of like it's like when people are against guns because it's just they're just scared of them.
Mm-hmm.
They just think too much about the death aspect of it, but they ignore like just basic things of like self-defense, the
It's virtue
importance.
signaling.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is, but it feels like it's gone to a point where like you just can't have a conversation that is relatively nuanced and without being labeled like insensitive or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. The guy who is trying to help people understand the difference between right and wrong and violence and force, and the guy who's a big teddy bear for the most part, someone who wouldn't hurt an ant, that's who I am. And then I'll tell people like your logic of firearms, for instance, is so illogical, and you're completely you're allowing just your emotions to speak, and you're not understanding that like most people don't understand self-defense. They don't understand the self-defense principle. And so like anyone who talks about guns, for instance, is automatically a right-wing.
He doesn't care about kids being killed or something.
Right. You have no heart. You're if you have a gun, that just means you're a killer. And it's not true. If I don't want to wear a mask, it does not mean I'm a killer. It just means I don't believe in the same ideology as you do. I don't believe my religion isn't scientism like yours is. Okay. I am very, I'm very harmless, but people look past that. They don't see that. They only see what the TV tells them to look at me as, or someone like me as.
Yeah. I guess we could start wrapping up. I don't know, David, you want to add anything?
No, I think I'm good. I think we covered a lot.
Yeah, we go through a lot of stuff on this.
Yeah.
We have a hard time of sticking to subjects. But
it's cool. I love the fact that you guys are able to talk about anything, because that's what I hope people from this or that listen to you guys. I hope that, I'm assuming they're probably feeling the same way. And but I look at it as a very inspiring thing to be able to talk about these things. And I know I might seem a little harsh on certain things that I'm passionate about, but I would totally talk to somebody one-on-one who's logical about something, who disagrees with me. It would never be me being like, I'm right and you're wrong. It just means the fact that we can go this long and talk about all these things, it means that there's a lot on our minds, obviously, and there's a lot that needs to be talked about. And the things that we're talking about are constantly being censored, and people need to question why that is. And Yeah, but anyway, I'll keep going on and rambling, but I just, again, I appreciate you guys. And if anybody is interested, who's listening right now, who wants to, go further down the rabbit hole of the mind and, the hidden realm or what's going on in this world or within us, you can come over to cubbyhole.com. That's CUBBYWHOLE.com. And if you start at podcast number 1 and work your way forward, you will definitely be met with some very interesting topics and information that really can only be beneficial. And obviously, none of it is meant to be believed. You got to do your own work as with anyone out there who really wants to know the truth. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys. So thanks again for having me on.
All right. All right. That goes to another episode of the Critical Introverts Show. I'm Senor Filth with Benevolent Asshole. Thanks to Nate Cap. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. See you guys another time. Thank you. Bye.
Yep.